Hi, first graders. I am Mrs. Wilson. I am one of the first grade teachers here at Roosevelt Elementary. You also have possibly have a teacher. If it is not myself, it might be Mrs. Me or it might be Mrs. Dinter. Those are the three first grade teachers here. I'm super excited that you're joining me for our reading lesson. There's actually some different parts of the lesson that we are going to work on together, and I'm going to show you kind of what they look like so that you know what to expect when you're sitting down doing your reading lesson for the video. So each day we start off with what we call phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is something that we hear, and then we're going to do some activities maybe with our hands to maybe listen to sounds. So we might snap our fingers, we might clap, we might just say it with our voice. So some of those things are different activities that we're going to do each day. And I start off with different words that may be practicing a sound that you're listening for at the beginning, the middle, or even at the end of each word. After that, we're going to be working on some sight word cards. And with those, you're going to see some pictures. You're going to see a couple of different examples of those and what it is going to look like as far as what you are expected to do. But we do expect everybody to participate, so I am super excited about that. The other thing that we are going to do is learn the new sound for the day. So that might be a vowel sound and it might be consonant sounds. Those are activities that we are also going to do, and you have to listen. That's part of a listening game. Then we are going to write some letters up on the board and practice those sounds. Then we do what we call a blending board. You may have done those in kindergarten already, but with the blending board, we're going to follow along. You have to follow with my finger, and I am going to ask, even though you're at home, that you do say those sounds out loud because it will help you become a better reader. And then there are two more things. Then we're going to do what we call dictation, where I'm going to say some sounds. You're going to see me count some of those sounds, and some of you guys have already seen me use my fingers as we count through those sounds, and we're going to use all of our sound cards for that. After that, we are going to read our decodable, and I'm going to ask that everybody have a reading finger out when we do our decodable. So with that, let's get started. As I mentioned, we are going to go ahead and get started with phonemic awareness first. What I did want to mention though is I have to look down actually pretty regularly just to make sure that I'm saying the right words and giving you the right things to say. And I have this big, fat, huge, heavy teacher book that I am going to be looking at. So if I have to look down a lot, I'm not playing with anything, just want you to know, but it is something that I look at just to make sure that we're using the right words that they suggest that are going to help us become better readers. So first, as I mentioned, we're going to do phonemic awareness. What that looks like is I am going to say a word, and what I would like for you to do, and this is just an example of what that might be, what you're going to do is you're going to say the first sound. So if I say cat, your job is going to be to say the beginning sound that you hear. Cat. K. Yes, you are correct. K, like for cat. Then, after that, we are going to go ahead and we're going to go through several of those words. And then what we do is we go to what we call sight words or vocabulary words and high frequency words. We call them all different things so that you guys can get familiar with those words. And what you're going to see is sometimes you will see a sight word on this card right here, okay? And what we say, this particular one is play. So it's going to, we would say play, P-L-A-Y, play. Then what you're also going to see is you're going to see a card that looks something like this, and it has a picture of it and it has a sentence. So for example, these pals like to play in the park. So this is something that we will talk about and have something and some discussion so that you can practice these words at home as well. After we are done with that, and we're sitting this whole time while we do these things, just so that you're aware of how that looks. So be listening and try to participate. I know it's kind of hard when it's just you by yourself saying these things out loud, but like I said earlier, it is super important to say these things and read words and sounds out loud and practice with me so that you can become a better reader. Or with your teacher, because it's not always going to be me just for now in the videos. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to another part where you're also going to be listening to some of those sounds again. So I'm going to blend some sounds in a word, and then I want you to say the sound, or excuse me, you say the word. So I want you to listen. Cat. What's the word? Cat. Correct. Good job. Now we're going to say those sounds. K, a, t. Cat. Good job. Now The first sound in cat is k. The middle sound is a. And the ending sound is t. All right, so we're going to continue that. And sometimes during this time, we practice those a lot too. During this whole time, I'm going to ask again, I need you to be sure and try what those sounds are, even if they feel a little bit hard. Okay? Then we're going to be practicing the sound for the day, or that is going to be in our decodable. Okay? So for example, if it is the letter A, it's going to sound a like apple. And I will have the sound cards so that you will have that as well. And we will be doing those here in just a moment. So it will really be helpful when you get those sound cards to have your sound card sheet out in front of you. And as soon as we're done with that, we are going to practice our blending board. So here in just a moment, we will pull that up on our screen so that you can practice with me for just the practice one, and then you will do your first lesson here shortly. Just as I mentioned, you will have sound cards. In the classroom, the sound cards are above the whiteboard. But for the purpose of learning at home and remote learning, we have put together a sound card and on a sheet of paper with all the different sound cards on it. So if you look here at the very top, it's going to start with the letter A, and it's going to go through all of these sounds. All these sounds that have two letters, we're going to learn those a little bit later on. But most of the time for right now, we're going to be working on these top two rows and a couple here. Okay? So what we're going to be working on today, we are going to work on the letter A. Okay? We're going to find the letter A. And what sound does the letter A make? Ah, you're right. Good job. A like apple. N like noodle. So I have the word Dan. Okay? So when we model, or when we do our blending board, as we model these, this one is the uppercase of D. So it makes the D like duck sound, just like up here. So we're going to sound this out. And as we sound this out, this is the way we are going to also practice our words on blending board. Okay? So we have D, A, Da, N, Dan, Dan. It is really important that you follow along with my fingers so that it will help you become a better reader. So what we do is we just blend them all together. We don't always say D, A, N. We want to chunk it together so that it makes it a little bit easier for us. D, A, Da, N. Dan, Dan. So now you try. Ready? D, A, Da, Dan, Dan. And you notice when I point to each sound, we're only doing that one sound at a time. When I loop, this is the chunk that we are going to see. And then when I loop it all together, and then we swoop one more time just to make sure we say the whole word fluently. All right, nice job. Next, we are going to work on our All right, as we get to our blending more, we're going to go ahead and start, and this is right up here each and every day. Okay, so we are going to just do a quick practice. This is the one that you're going to see in your first lesson as well, but we're going to do a quick practice so you know what to expect. So I'd like everybody to participate as I point. When I point, you are to say the sound. D, A, Da, D. Dad, dad. Again, you notice I was sweeping with my finger. Next one. D, A, Da, N. Dan, Dan. Great job. Let's keep practicing. A, N, An. It's really hard to be able to go through these and read them, but we're going to follow the same thing on each one of these, and then I love it if you could read the words out loud again when we are done. All right, now we are going to work on dictation, and for dictation, you are going to need your sound cards in front of you, so make sure that you have those things out. Okay, so what we're going to do with dictation is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to be counting out our sounds, and I'm going to have you participate with me, okay? So we're going to be using this sound card, and we are going to be working on several different sounds. So it might be a little bit tricky at first, but I want you to try really hard and still participate as much as you can. Okay, our first word that we are going to work on, and dictation, let me back up. And dictation is what we write down so that it also helps us become better spellers. All right, so our first word that we are going to work on is Dan. I see Dan. What's the word? Dan. So then we're going to stretch it with our fingers. Ready? D, a, n. Okay? D like duck, a like apple, n like noodle. What's my word again? Dan. Good job. Now I'm going to ask you, do you have any questions? But it's going to be really hard for you to be able to answer me on here. But if you have questions on how to spell, so you could ask questions like, the D, is that an uppercase or a lowercase letter? And I would say that is an uppercase letter. So that would be what you would write on your sheet of paper. And then on your sheet of paper, I'm going to turn just a little bit, you'll need a piece of paper just like this. So then after our questions are done, I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and write. And with our paper, we're going to put our name. So we're going to put our name over here. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to write number 1. On our piece of paper, we're going to write number 1. And what's the word again? Dan. You're right. So then I'm going to give you a few moments and you're going to write Dan. Okay? And I did write that in ink, but I would like you guys to use pencil if you would like to so that it helps. Then you're going to write it and we're going to pause. We're going to pause for a moment. And this is going to be your piece of paper. Okay, so this is the piece of paper that you have in front of you. So we're going to pretend I don't have one because I can't see yours. So we're going to pretend that you're sitting over here off camera because I can't see your face while we're doing this. So then I'm going to say, okay, let's spell the word. How do we spell Dan? And I'm going to write it up here on the board for you. And then you're going to check it and you're going to, whoops. You're going to see, you're going to look at your piece of paper. So we're going to pretend you're looking at your piece of paper. And I want you to look at it. Does yours look like mine? Capital D, lowercase a, lowercase n. Good job. You got it. So what you're going to do is you are going to put a star by it. Okay? If you didn't quite get it and you wrote something like this, and you wrote lowercase d, I'm going to scoot you a little bit closer, and you wrote a lowercase d, what you're going to do is you need to fix your mistake. So you're going to put an X over the mistake and put it right above it. And that's all you do. And then after you fix it, you can give yourself a smiley face for fixing it. Okay? Now we are going to work on our decodable. When we read our decodables, we're going to sit up straight and tall, and I would like for you to get your reading finger out. It is super important that you follow with your reading finger because that's how we keep track of where we are when we're reading, and it also helps us sound out words. So when we start with our decodables, we're going to read the title, and then we're going to read the author, who it is illustrated by, and remember the illustrator is the one that draws the pictures. And then we will begin reading. Okay, let's read Dan and Nan by Evan McDonald, illustrated by Lorinda Bryan Cully. You notice I'm following with my finger, so it's super important that we're still sitting up straight and tall and we're following with our finger. And then we're going to put our finger on the first word of the sentence and follow as I read. As soon as I'm done reading, I'm going to pause before we turn the page, and then you are going to read it out loud so that we can practice that reading. I am Dan Cat. Your turn. Nice job. Go ahead and turn the page. Dan Cat sat. Your turn. And so that we can read it again a little bit later.